Today is Monday, November 19th, 2018. This is MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. I'm Guz, that's Dan. Voice you hear in your head, that's George. And the other voice you hear in your head, that's Danny Okers.
That me?
That him.
You have to say it. Say it, George. Say that me.
Excuse me?
Say that's me.
Say it, that's
That's me.
There you go.
And that is the comedic stylings of Danny and George. All right. What is he doing?
I'm interested to hear his review of Bohemian Rhapsody. I saw it, and me and Danny shares a musical love and appreciation for good frontmen. So I was really curious for Danny's opinion of the movie.
I actually really liked it. There were some parts where, because one of the things I really get the chills from
the party scenes. Just kidding.
when you can see one of my favorite
Wait,
songs.
I know. The hole in the bottom of Pete's popcorn.
is when you can see the way a song that you really like kind of starts.
Yes.
Like even if it's something as simple as he plays a little piano piece or something like that, and then later you know exactly what it's going to come to. Like I got chills multiple times because of those kind of parts.
I'm so glad you said that. Me too, because obviously I love the band, but more importantly, as being someone in a band and frontman, you're there to kind of witness it, and especially as a frontman, you end up kind of whether you want to or not, you almost help kind of orchestrate the process, right? You kind of mediate because you don't have an instrument in your hand. You get to watch it come to life, and they did a good job of giving you that perspective. Am I off there? Did you get that same high because you've seen that process?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I thought it was a really good movie though. I enjoyed it.
Like what I really loved, especially coming from like a hardcore band where we can't sing as frontmen, so we encourage crowds and vocals, crowd vocals,
coming up in a minute,
and whatnot. I love that aspect where he's like, we want to encourage someone to sing along because that really wasn't done, we had the wild side of the performance side, like a Jim Morrison, that's been done, but we didn't have the crowd interaction side. And for anybody who knows punk hardcore, that is like history right there. Like you're like, oh yeah, that's right, they're really responsible for that. Or I obviously side with Freddie Mercury's and their push for a long form song, right? How long form. No matter the medium, there's always pushback. I don't know. Sorry, I'm ranting.
I like when they go, "You just lost Queen." He goes, "Yeah, they're not gonna remember your name."
Yeah, the kids aren't gonna headbang to this song in the car.
Yeah, in their car, and the fact that it was like mine.
Yeah, I know. It was a little too self of a nod, but I giggled. Yeah, I giggled for that.
All right, guys, coming up. Stand by.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMAjunkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we do and why we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yes!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communication stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
It's Monday, November 19th. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio. I'm in Costa Mesa. The guys are back in Vegas. Danny Okers in New York. What's going on, fellas?
What's going on?
How's everybody?
Good.
Good. Nice weekend of fights. Bellator 209, UFC Fight Night 140. I'm ready to dive into both of them, and as well, we'll take some calls, and we'll talk to Al Iaquinta, so it's going to be a fun show, and of course, this will be a short week, so we'll try and have as much fun as we can for these 3 days, and see if we can sneak in a quick preview of the card out in China as well, Beijing. I think that's now UFC Fight Night 141. So I'm anxious to get going. But I guess quick roundup. How was your weekend? We'll start with Danny Okers. We always seem to go last with him. What'd you do, Danny? Any gigs, or did you just chillax?
No gigs. I got to actually hang out with friends, and I went and saw the new Queen movie, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, yeah. So on the skit, we heard a little bit on the pre-show, your review, but rank it, man. 1 to 10, give it a letter grade, whatever.
I think it was like a solid 7, 7.5.
Okay.
I really,
right.
I enjoyed myself at the movies. Obviously, it wasn't like a Marvel movie, a big, giant blockbuster or anything like that, but it was, I'm happy I spent the money. I'm happy I went and saw it.
Cool. How come you haven't been playing any gigs lately? You guys writing an album, or I guess writing an album, or whatever it's called, creating an album?
Yeah, we're writing a new album, and we have some stuff we're working on for 2019 that have just kind of been taking up a lot of our time because it might be some international stuff.
Good stuff. Love hearing that. All right, what'd you get into, Dan Tom?
Similar note as Danny. Not the movie, though I did see it, but kind of just doing some normal things. Hung out with some friends, went to a friend's birthday party. Thankfully, it was a bar that showed the fight, so I was able to catch the co-main and main via that way, and of the UFC card that was. There was a lot of MMA this weekend. And yesterday, I actually had a nice lunch with a member of Junkie Nation. So yeah, it was a really nice, healthy, normal weekend.
Who was this individual?
Some dude from Chicago, Hoist Gracie.
Oh, Hal, that's right. Hal was in town. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. How about you, Goes? What'd you get into?
I was a curse this weekend.
Ooh.
Everything I touched. Oh. Is it because Hal was in town?
Maybe.
I never thought of that.
Could be.
All right, check this out. Peru lost. The U.S. lost. Neither one scored a goal. The Redskins lost, and their quarterback got Theismann. With Theismann there.
That sounds hot.
What else? The
USC
Rebels
lost.
USC lost. The Rebels lost. All of my teams got thumped. The Vegas Knights won, but yeah. And
but the Vegas
and
Golden Knights,
won.
I think, lost the next day too. Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody was getting
you.
thumped left and right. My car is doing something kind of weird right now, so I'm a little bit on edge. It was kind of a rough weekend.
All right. Well, I'm out here in SoCal. I'll be here for a few more days. Hopefully things turn around for all of us. Yeah, I guess I'm like Goes, sports driven in terms of my moods. USC lost to their rivals UCLA. I was at the game. Shout out to Sammy the Squid. It was for his birthday, and we hung out, and all my good buddies were there. And wish we could have had more, but it was a fun group. So that was cool. I got to see my godson Logan and hang out. Modern day high school football team, they won. So I had some good stuff and some bad stuff, in terms of the sports side of things. I also root for Peru and the U.S. to do good when they play international soccer, and that did not happen. But whatever. All right. So things culminated nicely on Saturday with UFC Fight Night 140. But I wanted to see and give proper due to Bellator 209 with Patricio Freire, winning his fight. I don't know if you guys had a chance to catch that, or the Nemkov win, or upset, if you will, over Phil Davis. And then we also had Ryan Couture getting a win. Any thoughts there, guys, on that fight card out in Tel Aviv, Israel?
You know what, man? I mean, even going back, it was still pretty interesting, but it just didn't have that. It didn't carry the same weight as just watching it live. It's so much better, But I do want to shout out LFA was pretty amazing. Did you watch that?
No.
Oh, people getting
I
laid out
saw
left
the
and
highlights, and yeah, people got folded up, man, up there in Costa Mesa.
They needed a
and of course Sabina Mazzo defended her title, so we had her, during the week. But yeah, there was some other really, really vicious KOs on that fight card. So they came strong to the OC, and hopefully the OC is like a twice a year stop for LFA. I think they usually do well there. I had actually spoken to Ryan Bevins, their PR guy, and he told me, good stuff for the fans as well. I believe Lyoto was there, Kelvin Gastelum was there, Cyborg, and a few others. So good night of fights, man.
Yeah, I got it.
All right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Dan.
Oh, no. If there's time, I was going to just chime in on my, which was nothing. I just got to come clean. I didn't see it. That part of the reason why is he emphasizing the Eddie healthy weekend? Because Dan Tom usually doesn't. Usually I'm just buried in MMA. So the time that I took, unfortunately, something's got to give is a saying that I've become all too familiar with. So you do one thing, something else is going to suffer. So I wasn't able to watch it. I wanted to give Bellator its proper due, especially with guys I've been calling as the next dark horse, Nemkov coming through. I really wanted to see how that went. But yeah, it's tough, man, and I love what Bellator is doing. But if they're not giving their own product its proper due, it's hard for us to. And within today's MMA, whether you're a fan or a media member, it's like a quick stream, man. God forbid I went and had a lunch and went for a friend's birthday. The things only cost a couple hours, but with the rate of MMA incoming, it's like this fast stream where you just drop something, a little leaf into it, and there it goes. If you don't catch it, like, you might have a chance to recatch it if you drop it. You drop the ball here or there, but it's like a stream, man. It goes shooting downstream, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll see it when I break those fighters down and I have to go through the tape again. But so unfortunately I didn't. But I heard LFA had an awesome card, so I'm glad you brought that up, guys.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, they did. There's a great highlight package that Access TV Fights always does, and many times we also have that, so it shouldn't be hard to find, and it's all recapped in like 3 to 4 minutes. But yeah, it's worth the look, because again, some people really were shining, the winners, and then obviously we losers. Hopefully nobody got hurt too bad, but some people were really hurt, man. There was some devastating finishes from that fight card. But of course, UFC Fight Night 140, I'm pretty sure we all got a gander there. That one, it's the UFC, man. They're the leader in our sport. And Santiago Ponzinibbio, the Argentinian, in front of his home country, defeated Neil Magny with basically a punch, a KO punch. But I mean, he just devastated him, man, over the course of this fight. It was inevitable when it was going to happen. And it was in the 4th round. He is the winner of the main event. He now goes to 27-3, guys. And he's like 10-2 in the UFC welterweight division. So I understand why he's calling out Tyron Woodley. And even though he's a top contender, I don't think he's the next contender. But still, nothing wrong with aiming high and having to settle for something right below the champ. But overall, great showing for Ponzinibbio.
Yeah, it was a good fight, man, from beginning to end. But you could just tell, like, that eye was really bothering Neil, and you could just see eventually that was going to play some kind of role in the fight, and just the kicks to the legs. The whole card in general was just a lot of fun, and they had quite a few barn burners in there, so I really enjoyed it. What'd you think, Dan?
Yeah, it was an awesome fight. I'm glad the commentators. I actually went back to watch the main and co-main to get the commentary feel as well. But it was actually pretty cool watching it without the sound, which I'll do a lot for tape study. But at a bar, you don't really have the sound, right? You kind of have the ambient noise. And it was cool because one of the things I was saying in the breakdown video we did for this one was that, like, the space ultimately was the space where they tend to compete is what did it for me. Ponzinibbio does his best pressuring, and Magny can get caught in his kill zone, which is between the black lines and fence. And without any sound, like Ponzinibbio, I almost was like, is this on fast forward? Because it just looked like he was like a swarming bee, and just using cage cutting. If you notice, he wasn't following. He was stepping laterally, keeping in stance, keeping in balance, cage cutting, and just swarming Magny like a bee. And I'm glad they clarified on the commentary when I went back to watch that it was a punch, because as you know, Ponzinibbio has been accused of the old eye pokery, and so I'm glad that they showed it was a legitimate strike, and great win for him. I agree with you guys, by the way, in the placement. Aim high, probably end up right below.
I thought the Pons was gonna run out of gas the way they were going early on. I was like, dude, there's no way he keeps that pace up, but he looked good. That was a great performance.
Yeah, and he thanked the crowd for coming out, and he actually touched on something. Argentina, like many South American countries, they're just going through some tough financial times, and he was really honest with everybody and said, hey, thank you for coming out. Thank you for supporting, myself and all the other fighters tonight. I realize that this isn't the most affordable night out for everybody, but, the fact that you all came out, it means a lot, and, we really appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts. And so he chose his words carefully, still got the message across, but, you know, he got a great roar from the crowd. I think the crowd appreciated that. And, of course, like Go said earlier, you know, there was just some really, really good action. On the main card alone, we had 5 finishes. So I think the crowd, you know, really, really left with a good impression. Anybody that was there maybe for their first UFC or first time at an MMA event, man, they got to be, you know, Googling and seeing when's the next card. You know, where's it at? Is it in a nearby country? Are they coming back to Buenos Aires? Because that was a good time. Ricardo Lamas defeated Darren Elkins in the 3rd round. Pretty devastating finish in there as well. More of a TKO with elbows and punches for his finish. And he realizes, you know, like Ponzinibbio, he's not next. But, hey, it doesn't hurt to toss out the Ortega and Holloway names, because those are the 2 that will be competing for the UFC featherweight title coming up here in a couple weeks. And, you know, after that fight, bar it being a slobber knocker where you have to run it back immediately, you have to sort things out with who is properly next, you know, who's under contract, who's healthy. So I think Lamas was just letting everybody know, you know, I'm happy to stop this 2-fight win streak, and I'm anxious to just get back in the mix, you know, whatever the fallout may be of these big fights coming up. I think Moicano just lost the fight, didn't he? Did I read that recently?
He needs somebody.
Yeah. So that was unfortunate.
You know,
Edgar hopefully gets back soon. Yair's back in the win column. Volkanovski and Mendez, I think, is another big fight that's coming up. Remember, man, this is a division that is just on fire.
You know, it was interesting. Not just Moicano, but I believe another fight, not as high profile, so it might not matter, but I believe was also at 145 toward the end of the year. And who was a 145er who we recently had on the show? Probably we've had on the show most this year. Not only had most on the show, but especially with George, seems to have a good luck with matchmaking. That's Michael Johnson. He said he was eyeing a fallout, and I wonder if that's one he'll do. That was one of the cards he was eyeballing when we broke it down with him in studio, right, guys?
Cool.
Yeah, Michael Johnson. He, you know, I'm not saying I don't want to jinx him, but he doesn't ever seem to just be out to injury or anything. So now that I remember, it's Bektik that fell out of the Moicano fight. Yeah, if Johnson can slip in there, or if somebody else is ready to go, maybe Edgar, who knows? I'd love to see it, but you know, Moicano's kind of in a spot where he could almost wait out 2 weeks just to see what happens with this fight, and then maybe be next. You know, I know he doesn't want to go the route of if Ortega wins. I don't know if Ortega will be ready to dance with Moicano since it just went down. But they did have a great fight. It may qualify. But he hasn't fought Max Holloway. And Max Holloway, should he come out the victor against Brian Ortega, I imagine he's going to want a busy 2019 dance card, because things really, really slowed down for Max Holloway in the last year, 18 months.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep an eye on. We'll see how these guys play their hands. But, again, about 6 to 9 months ago, the 3 of us, I don't know what we were doing, the rankings or just looking at things, and top to bottom, we looked and said, wow, featherweight might be the most stacked division, man, that in the history of the UFC. It is just killer after killer from top to bottom, you know, so that's an exciting division to keep an eye on.
Yeah, no, for sure. Them, bantamweight, those are 2. I think those might be my 2 favorite weight classes right now.
Yeah. All right. How about this, guys? Please, is there the correct adjectives to describe what you felt when you saw Johnny Walker and his performance over Khalil Roundtree? I mean, it looked like a father beating the crap out of his son behind the woodshed, country style. I couldn't believe how good Johnny Walker looked versus Khalil Roundtree. And Roundtree's coming off a vicious KO himself. I thought this was going to be a more competitive fight, but Walker made it look easy.
You know, there's something, I was talking to somebody here earlier from Mandalay Bay about that fight, and he threw an elbow even earlier before the second one that pretty much put him down, that looked like it really stunned him.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's where it started to begin, and then just landing that second one. You're right, man. Like, you know that, what's that thing that you punch? Is it called a bob or whatever, where it's just the body of torso? It looked like he had one of those. He just grabbed hold of it, and bam, he hit it with that one, and those are some brutal shots, man. I like Khalil Roundtree. I want him to take some time, though, after this one, because that one really seemed to hit him pretty hard, man. That you need to rest your brain after something like that. Great performance, though.
Yeah, it was a brutal KO, and against someone I know, so that was hard to watch for me personally. But I was just laughing just now because of George's analogy of a father beating his son behind a woodshed. What did you say, like, Southern style or something?
Yeah,
I was like,
were you Adrian Peterson?
jeez. And I just imagine, like, sometimes I'll imagine things literally, and it makes it more funny. I'm just like, the father hitting his son's enough. Does he have to do the Muay Thai elbow too?
Oh,
Like, does
man,
he?
that was brutal, dude.
Yeah, you could hear it on the replay, which was
blood,
even
right? Like,
yeah.
Oh.
That was rough. And this guy Johnny Walker, they'll take nothing away from him. I mean, you know, hard to watch on the Khalil side, but on the positive side for Walker, does this guy remind you of like a Pride Alistair Overeem at 205, that 6'5" frame and just winging hammers and knees?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, yeah, he is a big cat, and I know he came through that Dana White Contender Series, I believe, for Brazil, but for me, I skipped those. You know, I think I may have caught a highlight or just seen results. I didn't know who the hell Johnny Walker was or what was about to happen, but damn, I mean, that was like, whoa, you know, and it all happened so quick. You could just rewind, you know, and you had plenty of time before Lamas and Elkins and watch it 3 or 4 times just to see, holy cow, was this a work or what? I mean, this was. It was pretty vicious, man. And if you look at Walker's face, he just looked confident the whole time, like it was gonna happen, and it was gonna happen that fast. Now, 2 things. One was when Khalil threw a leg kick, you know, to the thigh. Walker kind of like rubbed it and acted like, "Ooh, you got me," you know, like I'm supposed to fear those or something like that. It wasn't. I don't think Roundtree's best effort, but still, it was just a leg kick. Probably maybe gauging distance or something, or maybe just trying to set something up for the future, you know, later in the fight. But that was one thing. A lot of people, obviously, in martial arts, you know, they love the respect between 2 competitors, and so someone more like me might be like, "Ooh, you know, he's calling him out or whatever, he's talking some smack," and then there's others like, "I don't like that guy's style." But regardless, the fight plays out. And Walker properly wins, but did you guys notice that when he won, he also shoved the ref off in a way?
Yeah.
That was like two quick, you know, actions by a fighter, by a competitor, where even me, you know, where I like a little bit of that rough stuff, you know, and I tell people, slow, you know, ease up a little bit. You know, this is a nasty sport and things like that's going to happen. That's one I didn't like because that referee is there to break up 2 guys that are trying to assault each other on the verge of death, we'll say. And so in that, a lot of times they got to get hit, you know, especially when they stop a ground and pounder, you know, that type of stoppage. You just got to get in there. And a lot of times you'll get hit by one of those missiles, whether it's a knee or an elbow or a punch. You know, nobody ever says, "Oh man, I hope the ref's okay" or whatever. But in doing that, in stopping it, you're doing it while caring for the fighter that's on the bottom, but also stopping the savage that's on top of him. So you have to be careful. You can't just dive on top of the guy on the bottom either. You have to do it in a motion where you're kind of supporting yourself over that guy. So when Walker did that, I didn't like it, man. It really rubbed me the wrong way. Now we'll see how Walker tackles this. He may just be the next heel. You know, and if he is, he's off to one hell of a start. But either way, man, it was still a statement win.
Great point, George. I'm glad you brought that up because doing tape study for Walker, there's actually two incidents, questionable incidents, not necessarily involving a ref, but just we'll just say with the guy's character that shouldn't be involved with the fight. One of them, I believe, is kind of toward the end of his Dana White Tuesday Night Contenders fight, and the other was on the regional scene in Brazil. So it's not something new, and what it is it's an assertion of bravado, right, guys? This happens in all sports. I'm looking at the screen across from me now, and it's football. Dan Tom doesn't know much about football, but I know about that dumb rule where you can't celebrate. And I don't necessarily agree with that rule in the end zone, but if you expect those savages in the NFL to have to monitor themselves celebrating in a dance, you know, this should go without saying that you should be able to. I know it's a fight, but you know, even more to the point, you know, you should be able to control yourself and stop when the referee says stop. Bells, you know what I'm saying? You're already trained to stop at signals and officials when you see the official stepping in. There's no excuse for that, whatever. What it was an assertion of bravado, and apparently for Johnny Walker, he had to assert it no matter who was there. So
yeah, odd when you see the guy that won act like that.
Yes,
kind of weird.
Yeah,
yeah, I agree with you guys.
I really want the UFC to just tell him, look, man, that was a great win. That was a great debut win, under the UFC banner. Now, let's call the Dana White Contender Series kind of like its own little promotion or series or whatever you want to call it. But, Reed Harris or one of those execs that always travels, look, pulled the guy aside and said, listen, man, that's just not how we do things here, I mean, we're just getting past UFC 229, but, that buildup, it manifested itself for years. Not that there's any excuse for it. But still, this guy Khalil Roundtree's a really, really quiet, respectful guy. You won the fight. The referee, I've seen him in action before. It looks like he's a good addition to the referee stable. But you just don't need to be acting like that, because from here on out, we're either going to do something on our own if the commission doesn't do it, which I think is something the UFC should start looking at, or, well, I guess. If you want to go extreme, you'll just no longer be a part of the organization. But I know that one's
right.
A long shot because when the UFC has themselves an asset, then they want to keep it. But, a week or two ago, we were talking about light heavyweight and how shallow that division is. And with the resurgence of Corey Anderson, with Anthony Smith, dropping in from middleweight, looking good. Misha Serkinov back in the win column. Jan Blachowicz won't go away. Krylov, they re-signed. And then, of course, you have these other guys like Manua, Teixeira, Latifi, Gustafsson that just been around for a long time. Volkan had a great year last year. I still consider him, a top guy. But the young guys like Alexander Rakic and Dominic Reyes, and now this dude, hey, I like where the UFC's starting to go again with 205.
Yeah, I think it's the guys at the top that really makes that division seem shallow, just because they're so good. But if you were to really take them away, it would really become a competitive division. It'd be a lot of fun. So we'll see, man.
Well, that's what's going to happen. Cormier's going to go away in March of 2019. Anthony Johnson went away last year, and Jones can go away at any moment, on his own volition. But with Bader and Davis over at Bellator, it's like right away, the top five light heavyweights of the last 5 years, are just they are not in the UFC for one reason or another, or at least that could be the case. So we want to make sure we always restock the shelves. Who knows? Maybe Cormier sticks around. Maybe Jones gets his act together. Maybe AJ does come back, not to heavy, but to light heavy. But that one seems more like a long shot. And of course, the other guys are pretty entrenched over there at Bellator. Hell, Davis may obviously slip out of the top five now with that loss he took to Nemkov. But anyway, regardless, I just thought that was an incredible debut by Johnny Walker.
I love how we also have to throw that caveat at John Jones. But John Jones could be gone at any time. Like, this is a reference above my own head, but if, like, the UFC was, like Magic the Gathering, like, John Jones, the only way to beat him would be, like, the self-sabotage card. Like, all these strengths.
It's sad. It's sad, but it's true because right now if you say, oh, man, I got some news regarding Jones and why he's not fighting, any other fighter, you go, is he injured? Oh, it's not one of those serious ones, is it? 9-month, Achilles heel, whatever. Or can he fight at UFC 233? So you have to go through that. No, it's not that. Oh, man, don't tell me USADA got him. Holy cow, is he going to have a defense, tainted supplement, whatever? No, it's not that either. Oh, don't tell me he got in his car. You see what I'm saying? There's so many reasons why Jones can no longer be an active fighter that's the one where that's the chalk money right there. He's the one that of all the fighters that's just more likely to not be a constant staple at 205.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Just to round out, we got to take a break here, but just to round out the main card, Ian Menich and Marlon Vera and Cynthia Calvillo got wins. I want to spend some time on the Calvillo win. We still got another 90 minutes to go on the show, but first things first, let's pay some bills. We got to do that and then come back with Al Iaquinta. And then after that, we can relax a little bit and keep going through all the results from UFC Fight Night 140, Bellator 209, LFA, One Championship, whatever you guys want to discuss. During the Al Iaquinta interview, I suggest you get in the queue if you want to discuss this with us. It's 866-522-2846. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, Channel 93.
They are the stretch marks on the underbelly of the MMA community. But hey, stretch marks are the new tax. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
The Saints win another statement game. The Redskins lose their quarterback, and a ton of wild finishes. NFL Radio is recapping a wild football Sunday right now on Channel 88 and streaming on your phone and on SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. All right, our guest today is Al Iaquinta. He is going to be fighting at UFC on Fox 31, and that fight card comes up on December 15th. So we're a little bit under a month away from that. It's going to take place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Most notably, this will be the last fight card on Big Fox. That's right, Big Fox. So the Iaquinta Lee fight will actually be the last fight on Big Fox. Not the Fox Sports family, because as we know, we still have the UFC 232 card happening later in the month. So on Fox Sports 1, I believe, you're going to have some prelims there. But still, of the notable fights of the Fox era, it'll be these two cats. They're running it back. If you recall, Al Iaquinta defeated Kevin Lee back in 2014. So we'll see how this one turns out. We are now joined by Al Iaquinta on the hotline. What's up, Al? How you doing?
Yo, what's up, man?
Not much. How about yourself?
I'm hanging out. I'm doing good. All
right. That's good to hear, my man. Like I've told you in the past, having Al Iaquinta part of MMA is a good thing. Whether it's your tweets or let's say like your antics, good and bad, you're very entertaining. I like having you around, so I like it when you pop up on a card.
I appreciate that. I just like to fight, so I'm glad that I'm in the mix, and I got a big fight coming up, a tough opponent, right up there in the rankings, ready to win this fight and put myself right back up there.
Was it hard for them to convince you to take this fight, being that you've already fought him before and have defeated him?
Not really. I mean, he's been on a tear since then. He's won a bunch of fights, and he's looked dominant, especially his last fight. So I think that everything came together. It's the right time. It's the right place. The right opponent. It's going to be exciting. It's the last card on Fox ever for the UFC.
Yeah.
That's some big stuff. It's pretty cool that I'm finally getting to fight on Fox, Big Fox, and this will be the last one. It'll be my first and their last, so it's pretty cool for me.
So, Al, you noted that Kevin's gotten better since your last fight, and that obviously he's been on a tear. How would you categorize your skills since you fought Kevin Lee? Do you feel like you've gotten just as much better as he has, or even more, like assessing yourself?
I don't know. I have a tough time comparing myself to him in that way. I mean, I just know myself. I've gotten a lot better. I don't think, I put in so much work. I've progressed in my life in every way. I've always enjoyed fighting. But I mean, I think Kevin was, I was about the same age when I went through a tough knee surgery, and it really opened my eyes up to how the sport really is. So I definitely have learned a ton about life, about everything since then. He's just been focusing on fighting, and I think as a person I've grown inside and outside of the cage. So I'm not worried about money anymore. I'm just worried about having fun, and what I have the most fun doing is fighting. So you're going to see the best Al Iaquinta out there with no worries, letting it go and just enjoying the entire process from fight week to the weigh-ins to the fight. Everything's going to be I'm just really looking forward to it.
Do you no longer worry about money because you're killing it in real estate, because the UFC gave you what you wanted, or is it just your frame of mind that you're just not going to worry about money like you used to?
I like all three of those things put together. I think the UFC is definitely working with me a lot, and I have a lot better relationship with them. I think they're getting behind me a lot more, and that is definitely motivating. I do have the real estate thing that I have to fall back on, so in case anything happens in my career, I'm not just left out, hung out to dry. I basically have two incomes coming in now. I have the income of a professional fighter and I'd say not full-time real estate agent. If I put all my eggs in that basket, I could absolutely kill it. But I'm doing really well with it, so I'm excited on that end too. It's really fun after my fights to when I don't know what guys do after they fight and they take time off. And just to kind of like hang out all the time, because what I've been doing is after the fight I go to the office and I really focus on that, and they kind of go hand in hand. My downtime is taken up by focusing on real estate, and it's keeping me busy, keeping me occupied, and definitely helping me out financially.
Mm-hmm. One other thing, we're talking to Al Iaquinta here, folks. He headlines UFC on Fox 31 versus Kevin Lee on December 15th. And Al has been a ranked fighter for like the last 5 years. So this is going to be a good one. And with Kevin's resurgence, I should say, since that loss to Al Iaquinta, he is also a ranked fighter. So this could have title implications as we look forward to 2019. I guess that is my next question, Al. Where do you feel now that kind of there's order's been restored, with Conor had the belt for such a long time, wasn't defending, and then they did the whole interim, and then finally we had Khabib versus the former champion Conor. So all that's been sorted out. Everybody kind of suspects Tony will be next. But after that, do you feel like you're in that next wave? Like, hey, if I beat Kevin, start throwing my name out? Do you feel that strongly about your position?
No, absolutely. If I go out there, I put on a dominant performance. Right, it puts you right up there. In this, you never know in this sport. I got a freaking title shot as the number 11th ranked guy. So you win and you're in that mix. You have people talking about you. At any time, you could be thrown right in there, and got to be ready for it. I think I learned so much in that last fight, so I'm gonna be ready for any opportunity that comes my way.
Yeah, and just so people know, you also didn't prepare for a 5-round fight. You prepared for a 3-round fight. Not that he prepared for you specifically, but he prepared for a 5-round fight. You were preparing for someone else. So I know you both were preparing for different opponents, but I still thought that you had, the more difficult situation going in. Therefore, I think if you handle your business, you should be entitled to a proper camp versus the proper champion and all that. That's kind of what I was implying. I still think, the UFC kind of would owe you that one. But first things first, Kevin Lee on December 15th. All right.
Absolutely.
Let me turn it over to the guys back in Vegas. Goes, what do you have for Al Iaquinta?
Al, when you have a guy like Kevin Lee, I know you've already fought him once, but Kevin's the type of guy that he likes to talk a little smack and try and get into his opponent's heads. When you have a fight like that, does it almost make it more enjoyable to have those back and forths, or is it more of a distraction?
Nah, I think once it was all fun and games, and it was all good to kind of like poke at Kevin a little bit. But once the fight gets signed, it's all business. I'm just focused on training hard every day. And when I say it's all business, I mean it's all real business, like fight business, not not fake business, real business. Like in the gym, working hard, getting strong, getting fast, watching film, breaking down everything about my life, about the footage that I'm watching on his fights, and getting a game plan together with my coaches and my team, and just bringing everything together. I'm just focused on myself right now. I have been for the past, 8 weeks. I got a couple more to go, and these will be probably the hardest weeks of my training coming up right here, and I'm feeling great. I'm in a great spot. I'm going to peak right at the right time, and I'm just looking forward to it.
This may sound like a dumb question, but you brought up it's just business, and I was talking before the show about this. And I was wondering, I know you're a professional when it comes to fighting and when it comes to the real estate side, but would you be able to dial it in so much that you could actually sell Kevin Lee a house during the camp and you guys could actually work that way, knowing you guys are going to fight pretty soon? Is that something that you would even be able to do?
That's like you say that's a dumb question. That's like a genius question right there.
Thank you.
That's like I don't know how much pot you were smoking to think about that. What the fuck?
Would you be able to do it though?
Hey, business is business. I'd cash that commission check so fucking fast. I'd take it right to the bank. Absolutely.
Nice.
All right, there you have it. Let's turn it over to the fight analyst, Dan. Dan, what do you have for Al Iaquinta?
Hey, Al. I just had a question. Earlier this year, before maybe in 2017, I should say, you were working with the New York Sports Science Lab to get over some injuries, and you were really raving about them. And obviously they had you looking good, feeling good, and fighting good. So my question is, do you still work with them for any preventative or maintenance and whatnot, even though you're past those injuries?
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm not past any injuries in this sport. Trust me on that. I go out there at least twice a week, make the trip. It's an hour without traffic. There's always traffic on the Belt Parkway. So I'll be going out there tomorrow. Dr. Piazza and Juan, their whole team is really just on another level. Just going to that place, the positivity leaving there, you could be you maybe had the worst training session ever the day before, and you walk into that place hurt, banged up, mentally scattered. Dr. Piazza and his staff really pull it together, get my mentality on point, and fix my body up to where I'm ready to train hard again until I break down the next time, and I do it again. It's been a great cycle to keep me on the right track. The guys are the best. They have the best equipment. They have the best staff. So that's something I'll use them for every training camp, and I can't thank those guys enough.
Right on. And quick follow up on that. Speaking of which, you're saying all these things, and I don't doubt it. But do you ever recommend any of your other fighters, friends, like that are in the New York area? And I ask this because we're seeing a lot of fighters come down to where we're at this radio show here in Vegas. A lot of fighters are relocating for the benefits of the PI. But it sounds like you have all that and more where you're at. Is that something that's open to other fighters, or?
So you're talking about the Sports Science Lab?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely, yeah, no, for sure. I mean, Long Island's a great place to train and really just live. Other than the cold winters, I think that's the only downside. But I live 15 minutes from the beach. I rent out rooms to fighters. Fighters come out all the time and they stay with me, and they come to the gym. We have Ray Longo's Law MMA, Weidman's gym, and Ray's gym. And then 20 minutes away from there, we have Matt Serra's gym. And Sports Science Lab not far away. You're very close to Manhattan. And just a plethora of fighters, sparring partners. There's Long Island MMA, who's Ryan LaFleur and Bermudez and those guys. Belmore Kickboxing has Andre Harrison and a bunch of guys. So there's no shortage of training partners. and it's a great community. There's been a lot of guys coming out for sure. We have a good time over here.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was the second part to the training I wanted to ask you about. Obviously, from your own team to Long Island MMA, giving them some love. You guys have had quietly high-level training partners, good coaches, all the above for some time now. But I gotta say, this recent iteration I'm seeing at Sarah Long. What's up?
Sorry about. I gotta cut you off real quick before I forgot to mention Chris Wade. Chris Wade is a great fighter out of Long Island MMA guy, and he's been helping me out tremendously for this camp. He's been a great sparring partner, so I got to throw it. I can't believe I forgot to mention him. I say Long Island MMA, and I mentioned the other guys. I don't mention him. But I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Ahead.
Hey, I'm a fan of Chris Wade
That's
too. Respect. I'm a fan of Chris Wade too. Underrated guy. Respect there. So no problem. But
the guy's a legend. I went to South Dakota with him for one of our sponsors, American Ethanol, and we had a great time. It was a party out there. The guy's a legend for sure.
No, that's awesome, man. But I'm seeing almost like some new faces at Sarah Longo, though, as far as you got guys like Frivola, who's probably been there, but now he's getting recognized by more people. You got Oka Sasaki coming over from Japan. Obviously you've got a Divashvili, crazy wrestler guy. It sounds like you've got a lot of great guys to keep you on your toes. I was going to ask you about that, but more specifically, you got a picture with Matt Frivola here on your Instagram, Al, and it says solid sparring tonight. I suspect my father was rooting for Steamroller Frivola. What's that all about?
It was a kind of a little joke. So I walk in, and Matt Frivola's father was there with Matt, and he comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, don't kick my son's ass. Don't hurt him," or something like that, And then, like, my dad would come in and he'd say to Matt Frivola, he'd go, "Hey, kick his ass, beat him up. He needs to get beaten up." So it was just like funny. I was saying, "Geez, for Mr. Frivola, you're way nicer than my father. My father wants me to get my ass kicked. You're looking out for your son." It's just a kind of a joke. Well, how did it come off? What is that? What did you think I meant by it?
No, it just sounded like there was a funny inside story, just like you shared. So that's what I was hoping for, man. No, it didn't come off bad at all.
That was it. Yeah, no, that was it for sure. It was funny.
All right, Ray Janelle, we took up enough of your time, but it's always great to catch up with you. Like I said, you're an entertaining interview. You're an entertaining fighter, so it's always great when we get to catch up with you. Really appreciate it. I hope you have a safe camp, whatever's left. And, of course, we'll be tuning in on December 15th. It's going to be a great fight between you and Kevin Lee, my man.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
All right, take care, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Enjoy.
That is Al Iaquinta, folks. Give him a follow on Twitter at Al Iaquinta. And he is not playing around. He actually is very successful in Long Island as a real estate agent. So check him out on that side of things, too. If you want to do some business, he'll sell you a house. Buy, sell, or rent. All right, folks. We'll be right back. It's MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM, Fight Nation, Channel 93.
Up, up, down, down, left, right. BA, start. You told me that code would get rid of them. Yeah, well, they're still here. Okay, but now they know I tried to kill them. Hold on, Mom. Here are George and Goes.
Hear fantasy football reaction right now on Fantasy Sports Radio. From dominant running backs Saquon Barkley and Ezekiel Elliott to another huge offensive showing from the New Orleans Saints. Call in, talk about your favorite team, whether you clinched the playoff spot or got eliminated on Fantasy Sports Radio, Series 210 XM87, and streaming on the Sirius XM app and at home on connected devices and speakers. Iaquinta, if you want a little bit more info on the real estate side, if you go to his Twitter page, at Iaquinta, just scroll there where it says homeknockout.com. It's a really, really nicely designed website about him and his real estate agent career. So there's the easy link, or just call 833-466-3761. Iaquinta is 13-4-1. He'll be headlining versus Kevin Lee. Even though he lost his last fight against Khabib, he basically got thrown in there to fight for the vacant UFC lightweight title back at UFC 223 in April. Like he said, he learned a lot, and he's no slouch, man. He's beaten some good lightweights. He had an injury that kept him out for a while and a couple contract disputes, but prior to that, guys, he had won 8 of his last 9 since his run on The Ultimate Fighter when he lost in the finals against Chiesa. So we'll see how things play out. He's kind of playing with house money in terms of if him and Kevin Lee would have to dance a third time, if he were to drop this fight. And by that I mean he won the first one, so he's got that luxury, I guess. I don't know that we're really set for this being one of those fights where we need to see 3 times, but you just never know in our sport. Both guys are fairly young. All right, couple quick shout-outs here before we get to the top of the hour break. On the YouTube chat, I want to give a shout-out to FAM88 Winning Slot Vids, Ben Hansen, DJ Tony, Ryan Gerard, Knuckle Up 101, and Kate. I'm sure there's a few more in there, and I'll get to those in just a sec. Going back to the fight card that we were discussing early, let me just give some info. I don't think we'll have enough time for any discussion or phone calls now, but in the second hour, it's wide open, and we can do just that. More talking about these fight cards that took place, unpacking them, and seeing what's next for each fighter, along with taking the calls. So 866-522-2846 is the number to call in. So the rest of the card went like this. Michel Praceres, who's now up to being a welterweight, he defeated Bartosz Fabinski. Alexander Pantoja defeated Ulka Sasaki. Austin Arnett defeated Umberto Bandane. Laureano Strapoli defeated Hector Aidana. Jesus Pinedo defeated Devin Powell. And Nad Neramani defeated Anderson Dos Santos. The bonuses of $50,000, they went to the following fighters. For fight of the night, it was Laureano Staropoli versus Hector Aldana. That's the fight that Goes just referenced. Even though it was 30-27, still a fan pleaser for sure. Performance of the night went to Santiago Ponzinibbio and Johnny Walker. They got $50,000 each for their shutdowns of Neil Magny and Khalil Roundtree, respectively. The fights took place at Estadio Mary Terán de Weiss in Buenos Aires, Argentina. 10,245 were in attendance. We did not get a gate figure. All right, again, that number to call in is 866-522-2846. We're just going to be gone for 1 minute, and then we'll be back for the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. So call in and participate, or leave a question in the chat. We'll be right back. A fortune won and lost on it.
this movie stands the test of time, right?
It does.
Except for the aircrafts, obviously.
I got a funny story about this song.
I'm scared now.
Well,
don't ask that.
I had a flight suit because a flight suit could be turned into like so many different. Well, because it could be turned into so many different costumes, right? You could be a Ghostbuster.
Why, you could be Michael Myers.
Yeah, well, it originally started off as something innocent, just being a Top Gun guy. And me and my buddy Jake, we both got flight suits and aviator glasses, and we just got super drunk and listened to this song all night. Like I made a burnt CD with it, like 15 tracks, all Kenny Loggins' Highway to the Danger Zone. Fast forward, my friend Ward's like, dude, I lost my CD booklet back when there were CD booklets. I have to drive all the way back to Reno for college. I have nothing to listen to. And I'm like, dude, I got you covered. He always came to me for punk rock, hardcore music. I'm like, I got a mix of 15 of the latest punk hardcore tracks. It'll keep you busy and jamming all the way there. It's like, thanks, man. Literally give it to him. He's off and speeding. About 20 minutes later, I get a call. Fuck you, man. It was all the Highway Danger Zone. He's like, 15 tracks, really? Why would you make this? Yeah. Why would you give this to me? Sorry.
I want to do that to somebody now.
It was a great setup.
How would you not get a speeding ticket listening to that song? It's impossible.
That's what I was asking. Like, you should have got there faster. You should be thanking me.
You going to watch Top Gun 2, George?
When's it come out?
They're filming it right now.
Are you serious? I thought it was a joke.
No, for real. Yeah, they're filming it.
Whenever it comes out, I'm in. Ni que fuera un way, of course. Hey, you know what? We are going to take calls and we'll, finish discussing some of those fights that took place this past weekend. But unfortunate news here on one end. Did you guys see? It was actually the first thing I opened up here. It said, report Rachel Ostovich hospitalized, domestic violence investigation opened. Now, it's a quick little post on the front page of MMAjunkie. So I'm just going to read it. I'm sure this is going to be big news because this is a very sensitive topic in our country, and one that, of course, any woman should not have to put up with something like this. But I imagine at this point they're in the allegations. These are allegations, I should say. And so, we'll tread lightly on this. But basically, here's what happened. UFC women's flyweight Rachel Ostovich reportedly suffered a broken orbital bone after being attacked in Honolulu. TMZ.com first reported the alleged incident, adding that the police have opened a felony domestic violence investigation. While details remain scarce at the moment, Hawaii's KHON2.com cited a source that indicated Ostovich is in bad shape. It's very sad. That was the quote there from the source at KHON2.com. UFC officials were not immediately available for comment. Ostovich's rep declined comment when contacted by MMAjunkie. As you all know, Rachel Ostovich, was supposed to face Paige Van Zandt at UFC on ESPN +1 on January 19th at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. Ostovich, who is 27, was a cast member on The Ultimate Fighter 26, bowing out in the quarterfinals after losing a unanimous decision to Barb Honchak. However, the Hawaiian was brought back for the season's live finale, where she submitted Karine Gevorgian in the opening round. Ostovich competed most recently in July, suffering a submission loss to Montana De La Rosa at the Ultimate Fighter 27 finale. So again, they're in the allegation stage, but they're saying she's in bad shape. It's very sad. I think what that means, obviously the broken orbital bones is a very, very serious injury, but I think I want to be clear about this. In bad shape, I don't think they mean in terms of her life. I just think in terms of the injuries she probably suffered. That would be my guess.
Yeah, physical and emotional too,
Correct, yeah. No name is attached to these allegations, so that's all we can really report at this time. But anyway, thought I'd pass it along.
Yeah, no, all I'll add again, you can't really add much on this kind of stuff. You gotta wait till the details are out, and fortunately or fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you want to dice this up, there's a lot of ways. But I'll just say this: I just hope it's not a trend that continues. Obviously, like George said, it's not just a sensitive subject in our country, but it's something that gets relayed and unfortunately associated with sports, right? The NFL, boxers, mixed martial artists. It's not uncommon to see these kind of stories, and to see it on the other. So for as a fan of the sport form, but more importantly as a fan of human beings and women, a lot of women come to these sports through as a way to combat and push forward and empower themselves, and that's how they get into these, someone who would teach women self-defense or teach kickboxing classes. You see them come in for those reasons, and now we're seeing these women even taking a step into fighting and having all this success. And I'll just leave it at that. That I just hope it's not a trend that continues on for them too. It's not something any of us want to see.
Most definitely. Now, a couple other things here, guys. Just to throw out some topics, which if you all want to weigh on, that's fine. And if not, fine. We'll continue recapping the event on Saturday. Excuse me. Or taking the calls. Danny, also, I don't have VX because I'm in Costa Mesa. So just let me know what's going on via text. All right. We did an interview with James Vick, and the writers recapped that. Even though he said the loss hurt, it was depressing and humiliating. Vic had some swagger in his voice, and it sounds like he's ready to go. He'll be fighting Paul Felder in Anaheim, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a great fight booking for both guys. Also, an interesting story on Miesha Tate as she details the road to one championship. She had actually had this vision about 4 years ago, guys. And after her baby was born, she reached out to Chatri Sidyatong, who is the CEO of One Championship, and asked if there was anything that she could, work with that promotion, because she really, I guess, fell in love with Singapore and just fell in love with what One Championship was doing. So not that she's trying to say, hey, I was here before Eddie Alvarez and Demetrius Johnson. I think she was just telling the interesting story of how long she's been thinking about maybe some sort of a change, either in the scenery or, her career. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the story's there for you guys to read. Also, Bellator 209, like I mentioned to you guys, Pitbull sets a new all-time wins mark. He's up there, man. Pitbull Freddy, you got to give him some respect. He's held the belt a few times, and he's had, his fair share of title defenses and just big wins in his career. So if you want to take a look at that, a lot of people really enjoy those facts and stats that are provided on our website that you can see from time to time. Also, Golden Boy, they lowered their pay-per-view price for Saturday's Liddell versus Ortiz 3. There's two things. For one, it was 40. Let's just round up. It was $50. They lowered it to 40. But I believe that on Black Friday, you can get it for 20. If I read the article right, provided there by Steven Morocco. Now, I know that for 50, I wasn't getting it. And for 40, I'm still not sure if I was getting it. Just because Thanksgiving, I think of family, I think of football still. And I don't know that this is a fight that I've been clamoring to see. But I'll tell you what, for 20, I think you got me, So check it out, folks. I think a lot of you will feel like me. They got some other fighters on that fight card, that you're familiar with. Dave Terrell, Efren Escudero's on that card. So there's a few matchups in there that I think will make for a fun time. And then, you always say, hey, I want to support these fighters, whatever they do. This is a new promotion. If you want to give them some love, then this is the time to do it. And I think 20 is pretty fair. 40 is a tough ask, but we'll see. Oscar De La Hoya keeps saying that there's 70% sold out at the Forum for the fights on the 24th. So I think that's pretty impressive, honestly. I mean, the Forum, man, the Lakers played there for many years, and that's about a 17,000-seat arena. Now, unless they're, blacking out the upper sections, and maybe condensing it down to 12,000 or something, to me, that's an impressive mark. It tells me that they're for sure over 10,000, maybe closer to 12,000, if the whole arena is open. But if not, it's still an impressive number. We'll see how much truth there is to it. And lastly, there's a recap there of our interview with Antonina Shevchenko, talking about the way the Shevchenko sisters have been prepping for their upcoming fights. All right, guys. Let's take this call from Showtime in Tennessee, and then we'll get back to some stuff that, well, not some stuff, but basically the events that took place this past weekend. All right, Showtime from Tennessee. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
What's up?
Not much, and you?
Nothing much, man. Nothing much. Just a normal Monday, man, out here on the grind and listening to my favorite guys talk about MMA, man.
Thank you, man. Always appreciate your support.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I think the card this weekend may have done a little bit better than I expected. I really just didn't expect a whole lot out of the card. And
I wasn't disappointed, you know.
Well, no, exactly. If you're at home watching TV all day, watching football, relaxing, you know, you put in your hard work all week, it was a great way to cap off a night or a day, actually, of sports. I went to the whole, you know, I went and started tailgating at 8 a.m., sat through a whole football game that didn't go my way, drove back, had a nice dinner with my buddy Gabe, and then, you know, walked into basically like the last 4 or 5 fights on the main card. And there was some great fights, you know. Then I was able to on Sunday go back and find, you know, some of the other ones that I missed. But like I say, I know the oversaturation is a complaint for sure. It's valid. But once the fights are made and they're happening, and these guys and gals are going through training camps and going through the weigh-in process and showing up to fight, you tell me what channel, I'll put it on, and I'll usually enjoy it too.
Oh yeah, man, it was a pretty decent card, man. That the main event, man, Ponzinibbio, man, he's a pretty exciting fighter, man. I wouldn't mind, you know, seeing him go up and take on a higher level opponent. I don't think he's at the, you know, the point to be calling out Woodley, which I know we like to see him make a little noise on that. But there's a couple other guys, man, there that I wouldn't mind seeing him fight. I wish they would rebook the fight that he got hurt and had to pull out. I think that would be a good fight. But if you basically a fighter, I don't think you jumping up there to fight him if you ranked a lot higher than him. I think that you look at that as a dangerous fight because he has a nasty style, but it's a fan friendly style though.
Yeah, very fan friendly. Showtime. I was just gonna say that. Did you actually watch the whole card from start to finish from the prelims? Because I know it was a longer card. That was maybe one of the complaints that I saw. The action was good, but as far as the length of the card, did you watch that whole thing?
Man, I watched every card from from the first prelim, you know, to the main event. You know, I sit there and watch it. Even if I'm moving around, I got it on my my tablet. If I'm going somewhere, I got it. So I'm watching every fight.
All right, so let's talk about Ponzinibbio. What should be next for him? Even though he called out Woodley, we know that's not going to happen. We all believe Woodley and Colby Covington will fight sometime in 2019. I'm looking at the USA Today Sports and MMA Junkie rankings. Rory McDonald's at Bellator. Now I get down to number 4, Darren Till. Darren Till's coming off a loss versus Tyron Woodley. Has no fight booking that I've heard of. Has entertained going up to middleweight, but could stay at welterweight. Stephen Thompson was rumored to be fighting Robbie Lawler, but Robbie Lawler's been signed to fight Ben Askren. So Stephen Thompson is kind of technically out there. So is Darren Till. Rafael Dos Anjos has Kamaru Usman, so they're booked. I stated what Lawler has, that's Ben Askren. Douglas Lima's over at Bellator. And then I get to number 10, Damian Maia, who hasn't fought since, I just looked at it the other day. I think it was May that he fought. Let's see if I got this right. Yeah, it was versus Kamaru Usman. He fought in May. He lost. Before that, he lost to Covington. So I suppose he could be like the next step, because even though he's coming off losses, he's ranked higher than Ponzinibbio. Larkin's over at Bellator. Ponzinibbio just beat Magny. In fact, that's the jump Ponzinibbio will probably wind up taking over Magny, Korshkov, probably Masvidal as well. So, I don't know. I just tossed out some names. Who do you guys think makes sense for Ponzinibbio?
I think Darren Till over Damian Maia. I think he's more at that Darren Till level. But there's so many people there waiting, so many different scenarios. What comes out of that RDA, Usman fight, I mean, there's so many things that I'm not so sure Ponzinibbio. I don't blame him for calling out the champ, but I think he's a little further than he thinks he is. But a fight like Darren Till is the type that would probably get him a little closer. I just don't know that the UFC would book it, though. I think, if anything, maybe they might see the fallout out of some of these cards and from there piece it together.
Yeah, I agree. I like the Till one. I also like the Thompson one. Both those matchups, I guess, politically, but stylistically, they're fun because they're both counter-fighting guys. And you have a non-stop pressure guy like Ponzinibbio, so they're both going to kind of invite each other into their games, and those are always fun matchups.
I like Thompson because I think Till, this is the perfect time for him to try middleweight. Try it and see how you feel, because right now he's out of the loop in terms of competing for a world title. He just had his title shot. So even if he wins 1 or 2, there's just no reason to book him in a title shot anytime soon, especially if Woodley keeps winning. So now's the time for Till to say, all right, let me stick my toe over at middleweight, see how it goes. Maybe he winds up having a Gastelum-esque type of run. You never know. And if not, maybe he feels that size and the strength and goes, no. All right, I'm going to keep things on point. I'll keep using that PI to round up my camps, and I'll continue to be a 170 guy. I don't know. Because obviously we'll talk about Cinta Calvillo and these weight cuts and what they're doing to some of these athletes, especially the longevity. It could be, it's a decision that he has to be very serious about. So I would say Showtime, Thompson and maybe Maia. Unfortunately, both guys coming off losses might make sense. I got to believe if Usman beats Dos Anjos, he's not going to want anyone else other than the Woodley Colby Covington winner. If Dos Anjos wins, I don't know that he can get a shot because he just lost to Covington. So it would have to play out in a certain way, or he would just have to do something very special against Kamaru Usman. And then, of course, now you got this wild card, Ben Askren, undefeated. You never know. Imagine if he has a great showing against Robbie Lawler. He's obviously going to be in the mix. But this is a very, very exciting division. Cerrone, Leon Edwards, Alex Oliveira, Jorge Masvidal, those guys at the bottom that have been kind of beating each other up. I'd love to see them continue to stay busy. And I want to see these guys getting back to 2 to 3 fights in 2019. A lot of top fighters only fought once or twice in 2018. We can't have that. That's the new
norm. That's the way it's going to be, dude. I'm telling you. They're making more money now. I feel like that's going to be the new norm for champions, is fighting 2 times a year. Even top contenders.
It could be. All right, Showtime. We wanted to give you as much time as possible because I know we cut you off a couple times last week. Did you want to say anything else before we move on to Marco?
I just think that Stephen Wonderboy Thompson will be a good fight because he normally eat high-pressure fighters up. He normally just kind of strikes them to death. So I think that'll be a good choice for it.
I heard that. All right, buddy. Thanks for calling in. Let's go to Marco in Waco, Texas. What's up, Marco?
Marco from Waco, ¿qué pasa, Atos?
What's up?
Marco?
¿Qué pasa? Oh, so, Chito Vera, the crapper of the Argentino puto maldito Guido Caneri, so I was happy about that. Good second round, and he came out guns blazing. But the other Argentino puto maldito Santiago Montenegro looked good. I can respect, man. The guy looked awesome this weekend. And on that conversation, who should he had next? I think that Robbie Lawler, Ben Askren fight is going to get on the way of Kamaru Usman, calling for the winner of Covington Woodley. So he was supposed to fight Usman anyway. Santiago Montenegro, he was supposed to fight him in Chile. Let's revisit that, They're about the same neighborhood right now. Montenegro should be around 8 or 7 on the UFC ranking, not on the ones that made it in MMAjunkie ranking. And Usman is 5 or 6, so I would like to see that fight.
Well, if you think about it, Usman, who was also undefeated, by the way. No. I think he might have 1 loss. I'm sorry. Let me look it up real fast. Usman does have the 1 loss. Sorry. All right, Usman. A lot of people think highly of Usman, including the president Dana White, including the champion Tyron Woodley. So he's got a power move coming up, all right? But I would say whoever looks best out of Usman and Askren, if they win, that's the guy that's going to get the title shot. I would say that going into the fights, Usman has the lead, but Askren will have the opportunity to see what Usman does, I guess, and know that he's got to make it special and maybe turn it up with the smack talk. Even though Lawler's not really a guy you smack talk because he doesn't smack talk back, but just getting people interested. He'll have the benefit of fighting in the ESPN era, and it's not to slight Fox at all. It's just that, as you all notice, and I think I'm being fair here, the UFC-Fox relationship isn't ending on a oomph, we'll say. Whereas you remember what UFC and Fox did when they first started. It was everywhere, and it got off to a magnificent start. And I imagine the UFC and ESPN will make January of 2019 pretty special. So what I'm trying to say is Askren will have like a bigger platform to do well and overtake Usman. But we'll see, man. Another thing to factor in is when Colby will fight Woodley. If it's going to be in early January, then obviously that'll be tough for Askren. if Usman's already, looking to fight and the UFC's looking to book the winner of Covington and Woodley. I don't know. I just threw a bunch of stuff at you, but I think those are your two front runners.
Don't forget, what if Colby wins? Then what do? Do you give the champ a rematch?
Yeah.
There's that.
Ooh,
I have a feeling Usman and Askren are going to end up fighting each other.
Well, yeah, I haven't really actually assumed that Woodley would win, but I guess, yeah, all right, let's say Colby Covington does win. If it's a barn burner, Woodley, I believe, qualifies for a rematch. Except it's the same thing I thought of Stipe Miocic. He qualified. Now, he doesn't talk up a fight like Woodley, but he had the stats to back it up, and you see how he got shoved off to the side. So it's not nothing automatic. Now, we could also say, well, if Woodley gets starched, then he's out of the equation. Well, Cody Garbrandt wasn't out of the equation. He got starched, and he got an immediate rematch. So you just never know what the UFC's thinking. But if Colby Covington does win, and it's decisive, and they want to move on from Woodley, I know him and Usman have had some words. But at the same time, Askren's also poking at Covington as of late. So I don't think you'll have a hard time promoting his next fight. That's for sure.
Like I said, man, I seen Ben Askren should be rooting for Colby Covington to finally get a title shot, and Kamaru Usman should be rooting for anybody to win, because he doesn't care who the champion is anyway. Peace out, guys.
Let's go to Ben in New Zealand. What's up, Ben? How you been?
Yeah, I've been sweet as GG. For me, there were three things that came off this weekend. One was this predominance of these low kicks in the Lamas Elkins fight and Ponzinibbio Magny, and I think most of them were the low kicks, right? The calf kicks.
Yeah.
Another one was Johnny Walker making moves to become like the Izzy Adesanya of light heavyweight. He's dancing to the cage, he's goofing around in the cage, and then he's waxing fools. And then Cynthia Calvillo, who I'm a fan of, but she continued this trend of fighters who they don't cut all the necessary weight, and then they go on to win their fight. And that's like, I think, 11 out of 13 fighters who have missed weight in 2018, they go and win their fight. So it sort of links in with that notion that not following the rules in MMA can pay off when you see that cage grabs and eye pokes and groin strikes are very rarely punished in terms of losing points. So there's a sort of a point of view where, hey, just go ahead and take a free one. Why not?
Yeah. All right. So, regarding, we'll give kind of our more thorough thoughts on Calvillo, but as far as the fight, this is the way I look at it, Ben. For one, her team obviously loves her and adores her and is looking out for her. So if they're willing to let her go out, and I'm sure she was seen by a doctor, and the doctor's willing to let her go out, then I had no problem with them letting her fight. I did not like that she, I guess, was that heavy into the weight cut that she was like that. I wish they would have shut that down a little sooner. Now, that may have prevented her from getting the fight, because if she comes in at 122, we'll say, Botelho might go, wait a minute, that's 7 pounds, or 6.5, or wherever, I don't know that I want to take it. So it could be that behind the scenes, Botelho was saying one thing, who knows. But once the fight happened, Calvillo, looked good. I don't know that she gave an official response per se. I know that she said she went through some tough times with the loss of a grandparent. She was very, very emotional. I'm sure she'll take responsibility. Who knows, for everything that happened. But she did go out there and have the win. And again, two grown women decided. Botelho had every right to say no, I don't want it. I'm sure she had those stats available to her, but at the end of the day, the UFC knows what they're doing. Most of these fighters are 99% of the time, they're all going to want to fight. And that's just the way the sport is, my man. I don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But you're coming at it from a slightly different angle. I'm talking about how, I don't know the exact thing. I remember out of the first 9 fighters who missed weight in 2018, 7 of them won, right? So you're not really getting punished for missing weight. You're missing weight. You're going in heavier. You're doing less of a weight cut than your opponent. You're going in with an advantage. Even if you lose 20% of your purse, you're still more likely to get the win. And that trend seems to have continued since, I think that was the stats in like July or something.
No, so pretend you're one of those fighters. Pretend you're Botelho. Would you have taken the fight?
Yeah, I think the fighters are always going to take the fight because they're fighters.
Okay, well then then I guess there you go. We're making our point here. I see what you're saying. There does appear to be an advantage, but I will say it looked like Calvillo was one of the ones that tried towards the end to make weight, didn't just cut things off like, hey, I'm weighing in. I know I'm over. Tough. I'll pay the 20% or whatever. Remember, Botelho has a couple rights here. A, she doesn't have to take the fight. B, she doesn't have to settle on 20%. You know what I mean? So she makes that decision because she knows obviously she wants to get paid, and if there's no fight, there's a good chance neither fighter will get paid. Maybe Botelho will because she made weight, but still. You want the victory. You want that release of everything that you've bottled up for the last 8, 10, 12 weeks, and there's only one way to get it. Now, looking back, it does look like a poor decision, and especially when we see these stats, but these are just decisions made by grown-ups, behind the scenes. They're all the way down there. We're all the way down here. We hear a few things, but they're the ones that decide to do it.
I'll repeat something I think I said on Friday.
But also, you know what? It always leaves a bad taste in your mouth. You see someone who missed weight, and then after the fight they're celebrating as if they didn't go in with some sort of an advantage. Like, that's the other thing. And like I said at the start, I'm a fan of Cynthia Calvillo. I've always rooted for her. I root for her to do well. But when she's celebrating after the fight, that leaves such a bad taste in my mouth. Like, you miss weight, don't celebrate.
I'm a fan of Cynthia Calvillo too, Ben, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Great point. I'll just say something real quick, repeat what I said on Friday, and add something to that, because I think it speaks to both of what you guys are talking about. And that was in regards to when we got the news Cynthia Calvillo missed weight on Friday, and we were giving our reactions to it. I just said for me, it kind of comes down to two things. I want to see commissions kind of posture themselves more, but in the proper way. It could be real dangerous by me saying that. Like I said, we have New York commissions that have been pulling fights for people with chapped lips. I don't mean those weird examples. I just mean across the board. I would like them, for fighter safety, pulling them and whatnot. But to what Gigi's saying, the fighters do have options. I just want to see them, whether it be by organization and commission, working in conjunction so that these fighters can leverage their positions fairly without any fear of reprisal. So I definitely get that point there, and I'm all for that. It is their decision at the end of the day, but just like it's their decision to take the fight and it's their decision to cut weight, we have to, or we as in the proverbial bodies, have to be there to protect the fighters. And something that Mike Dulce says, I'll kind of cap it off with this, and again, he's a health, nutrition, weight cut guy. But his solution that I always kind of see him lobbing out there on Twitter is just more fines, which would kind of fit under what I said as far as more of a proper posturing from the athletic commissions and bodies in place. But something that Mike Dulce always says is more fines maybe might temper that and may temper our reactions to reactions to someone celebrating when they miss weight and then still dominate the opponent and whatnot, because it can, fair or not, it can leave that taste and impression.
Okay, and I do want to say this, Ben. When she won, my buddy Big Ralph was saying, just go up there, apologize for missing weight, say you were unprofessional, and drop the mic. I understood what he said, but I also understood that platform is only available to you, if you're lucky, 15 times in your life. Because even a 20 fight veteran of the UFC, if they were to go 15-5, that's a pretty damn good record. And you only get that platform when you win. And sometimes you may win a decision and you don't even get to talk or whatever. Or let's say you're hurt or who knows what. So what I meant, what I agreed with him. Keep it brief, keep it short. Apologize to your opponent. Apologize to the fans and the UFC. But I still think that when the follow-up question comes, you have every right to say, hey, going forward, I'd like to fight this person next, blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I watched the fight. I don't think I heard the post-fight interview or the whole thing. I only heard part of it, which was she was crying and she was saying something about a grandparent. But did you guys hear it? And was she in any way disrespectful?
She wasn't disrespectful, but I didn't hear it, and if she did say it, she didn't say it at the beginning. And kind of grading post-fight speeches, I will say this: someone who watches a lot of the post-fight speeches goes back. There are a lot of fighters who aren't great on the mic. They never make it to big prominence. They're not that great social media trained. But I've seen many cases where they get, Brian Stand or someone will ask them the first question, and they'll take in the first question. And they go, first, I just want to apologize for missing weight and apologize to my opponent, the UFC, the matchmakers, and their team. Blah blah blah. And to your question, yes, this was and then they pick up. That is the only way, in my opinion, you should handle that post-fight interview if you missed weight.
Jimmy kind of set her up because he said, like, his first thing to her was, I know you've been through something,
Yes.
But that could have been, he could have been talking about the weight cut, or he could have been referring to what happened with the grandma, because she instantly started crying.
Yeah.
And so I think on this one, as far as post-fight speech, I'll probably give her a pass. But at some point, that does need to be addressed a little bit more.
All right, and then is Ben still with us? Benny's still there?
Yep, still here, lads.
Okay, and so again, I don't want to be, a cheerleader for Cynthia Calvillo. The only other thing I can think of, my man, is when this happens, remember, a lot of these fighters do look at social media or do look at Twitter reactions on Junkie or whatever. I think they get hammered pretty hard, and I think the feeling from a lot of people is like, motherfucker, have you never made a mistake? Whether you're someone that's also missed weight or just done something at your job, blah blah blah. But because they're public figures, they obviously get slammed a little bit heavier. So I think a lot of times when you're slamming their nutritionists, their coaches, them, or whatever, I think part of that release is like, you had a chance to shit on me. This is my chance to shit on you back. So you're right, Ben. I like more of the humble approach on a situation like that. But I think that's my hypothesis of what happens is when that release comes out, it's everything that's been bottled up for the whole week, frustrations with fans and medias or whatever, media people or whatever, because their mistakes are so highlighted, them being public figures.
They sure are, and that's why what Dan said is 100% correct, because you're going to lose. I mean, I'm a cheerleader for Cynthia as well, and maybe that's why. I mean, when I'm a fan of someone, in some ways I'm a little bit harder on them because I expect more from them. But what Dan said about the way that you should handle that post-fight interview, that's how you win those people back. Like if they're criticizing you, hacking on you on social media, you want to win them back. You handle it exactly like Dan was talking about.
Yeah. All right, guys. All right, we got to take a break. Thanks, Ben. It's always great to hear from you. Great discussion. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM's Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close, and we'll be right back.
Injuries forced them to retire undefeated from MMA with a record of 0-0-0. They are Gorgeous George and Goes, and this is MMA Junkie Radio.
Get in the spirit of the holidays with SiriusXM's full lineup of holiday channels. 15 channels of commercial-free holiday music, including holiday traditions on Channel 3. Contemporary sounds of the season are on Halle, Channel 4. And new this year, the stars of Hallmark Channel present their holiday favorites on Hallmark Channel Radio, which is Channel 70. Get a complete lineup at SiriusXM.com/holidays and bring the holiday cheer into your home on SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. And so what that means is sometimes when you're decorating a tree or putting up lights or hanging out with family, you can play this music on SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. You don't have to always be in your car is what we're trying to get at. We have a fabulous app, and you can also stream so many of these channels on your iPads, on your iPhones, or through these SiriusXM connected devices and speakers that are out there. So take advantage of that. All right, guys, let's do the highs and lows live. I think we've tried this once before, and we have a little bit of time right now, so I figured, a lot of these will apply. At least mine will apply to the fight card that just took place. So you guys want to give it a crack?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right. These are the highs and lows for this past week, brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team. We'll start off with the lows and then finish up with the highs. Let's go. Goes, Dan, GG, Dan, and Goes. Go, start off with your low.
Man, this is one of all the highs and lows, this one's one that really had me low. And it was Cynthia Calvillo going in, trying to weigh in, and she just looked awful. Her body was not responding. Mentally, she didn't look all there. It was really tough to watch that, especially I'm a Calvillo fan. I want her to fight. I think I disagreed, even though she was probably cleared to fight and all that. It just didn't look right. It was a very bad look, and I hope fighters don't keep putting their bodies through that, because I want them to be around longer. And that was tough for me, so that's my low.
That's a good one there. Mine's gonna have to be with another organization, with Bellator. Last Thursday they had a Bellator show in Israel and had a great lineup. We had Phil Davis, Vadim Nemkov, a real weight in the light heavyweight division, and of course headline with Pitbull and Manny Sanchez, and we couldn't see it. It was tape delayed, and we had to wait for the results, and it's 2018, and I don't want to beat that drum or pick on Bellator, but this is something that, has been a criticism from fans and media alike, and we were hoping this would be fixed with DAZN, and I don't want to even unfairly come at DAZN. I think DAZN's done a great job. I've had a great experience with them, and I hope Bellator grows along with DAZN, but I think we were under the impression that we weren't going to get any more of these tape delay shows, and it's so tough to watch any kind of live sports when it's not live. It really takes the luster out of it, and it's tough, especially this day and age. So there's my low.
All right, I'll go my low and my high, and the reason I wanted to go last, for anybody that watches our highs and lows, it's usually Goes, myself, then Dan, because I'm standing in the middle, but mine kind of are with the same athlete. So my low is Johnny Walker and his antics post-fight. You just don't shove a referee out the way like that so you can be hard and appear to be a gangster who just, took someone out, and you want to make a splash or be a debut or have the fans, glued to the fact that, guess what, you're the next heel in the sport. No, man, you just waxed a great, solid light heavyweight in Khalil Roundtree, who's coming off a nice, stoppage himself this past summer. You know what? Celebrate. Jump on the top of the cage, or do a backflip, or do whatever. The stuff, during the fight when he got hit with a leg kick and he kind of gave him that, ooh, you really hurt me type of deal. That one I'm not saying much about. But, man, doing that to the referee, I don't think that's cool, because the referee's in there to protect both of you. And he was in the process of protecting Khalil Roundtree. And when he shoved him off, you just don't know how the referee, maybe his elbow now lands on Khalil Roundtree's nose or on his eye. I mean, that's a 6'6", 200 and rehydrated to about 235-pound human being, just, with full of adrenaline, bumping you off, you don't know where the referee was going to go. And as you guys recall, the referee wasn't even one of the bigger dudes. So keep it in gear, Johnny Walker. That said, my high was, did you guys see Johnny Walker? Holy shit. This guy looked awesome, man. I remember him from Dana White Contender Series, seeing a highlight, seeing the results, and thinking, okay, but at 15-3, he's lost before. And I thought, let's just see how he does. Wow. He looked like a guy that's going to be tough to beat if you just want to stand with him. I don't know what his jiu-jitsu game's like, but in the stand-up department, he had an amazing Muay Thai plum. He had some vicious elbows. He knows how to throw punches. Those guys that get up to about 6'4", 6'6", 6'8", their punches sometimes look awkward. But, man, Johnny Walker, he looked good. I can't wait for him. Rakic, Reyes, Johnny Walker, 205 might be back, fellas. Danton, what was your high?
Well, my high is going to be within the UFC department. I want to give them credit. We talk about too many shows, or it feels like it's so hard to keep up, or what's this market? Who's this guy? But really, there are a lot of benefits, quiet and not so quiet. And I think we had some quiet benefits of going to the South American market, and not so quiet in the good way. Very few times do we get to go to a market and have a guy from that market at the headline. And very few times, because MMA is so cruel, does that guy win. We have the Connors and Dublins and those type of moments. And it's really hard to create, we've come to learn in MMA. So the fact that, Argentina got Santiago Ponzinibbio to get a win, and kind of come across as that hero. That's great for the promotion and great for the fighter. I love seeing stars like that line.
My last high is going to be LFA 54. That card was amazing. And for as much as we talk about what Dana White Contender Series has done and maybe taken away from some of these cards, Access TV manages to put on great fights. That was a great card. And to top it all off, I thought the main event was a little bit more competitive than I thought it was going to be. But, dude, they must have had like a spatula out there because guys were knocking each other left and right. Great card. I had so much fun watching it.
Yeah, and Access TV does a great job of packaging their highlights. They're very easy to find. Many times you'll find them on Junkie, and if you can't, just look for them on Twitter. Not only do they individualize them, but they'll give you a complete package of the main card. Kudos to those guys. All right, so there you have it. There's our highs and lows for this past week, brought to you by the MMA Junkie radio team. Let me do a couple of quick shout-outs here in the chat room as we go out to our last break. We got Real. He's in the chat. He or she is in the chat. I'm not sure. DJ Quest 562 also chilling with us in the chat. Shout out to him or her. I think it's a him. All right. It's our last break on the MMA Junkie radio show here, completing the second hour. So don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
They taught Andy Griffith how to whistle. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Get the radio channel numbers and a link to listen to your favorite NFL, college football, college basketball, NBA, or NHL teams sent right to your smart device. Just go to SiriusXM.com/sportstoday. Once you're there, click Add to My Calendar. All right, getting ready to wrap up on a Monday here. If you missed any part of the show, you can, SiriusXM audience, you can check us out on the SiriusXM app. It's easy to download, and you get us in commercial HD quality and commercial free. Also, there are replays at 8 p.m. Eastern and the following day at 7 a.m. Eastern. So check out the MMA Junkie radio show. If you happen to catch the audio replays, any of them that make it down to iTunes, we appreciate the reviews that you give us. You can rate us 1 to 5 stars. 5s are always welcome. Let us know what you think of the show, where you listen from, and we'll gladly give you a shout out, and it's much appreciated. Any feedback, good or bad, is always welcomed here. Just please be constructive. All right. Before we wrap up, let's do the daily debate. I want to do that. But did you guys want to have any final thoughts on Cynthia Calvillo, what she looked like after what she looked like 36 hours prior? I mean, were you guys kind of in shock? I mean, Botelho's a good fighter, and Calvillo took it to her in the striking and in the grappling.
I mean, I thought she looked good. You're right. She excelled in places we didn't think she would. But what does it mean? That's the problem with these type of fights, is going forward. What does that mean? Because she didn't go through what the other girl went through. She didn't come. It wasn't. You can basically say it wasn't a fair fight. And so for me, it's tough to really build off of something like that.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. She looked good, and it's also hard to tell because it was only one round. I mean, if we're talking about a tough weight cut. That probably wouldn't show itself to maybe the second or third.
All right. Fair enough. I was impressed, honestly. I didn't think, for one, I didn't know if she could win that fight, and two, much less in the way she did. Botelho, if you look at her at the end of the fight, she was like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
You know, did I get run over or what? But regardless. All right, guys. Let's finish up with the daily debate brought to you by the MMA Junkie radio team. As soon as I can find it here. I ask that you bear with us.
By the way,
I have
Manny
like
Pacquiao
30 windows.
and Adrian Broner are going to fight January 19th in Vegas.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
January 19th?
I
Oh
believe
boy,
so.
why does that ring a bell? I think that's the first ESPN card or something like that. So who knows? Maybe it'll be one of those days that we're locked into the studio. All right, guys, here we go. Now it's time for the daily debate. Brought to you by the MMA Junkie radio team. Golden Boy has lowered the pay-per-view price for Liddell versus Ortiz 3 to $39.99. For today's MMA Junkie radio daily debate, we want to know if you'll be buying the card. Now, I don't want to hear from Dan, Tom, and Goes, the co-hosts of MMA Junkie Radio. I want to hear from Dan, Tom, and Goes, the fans of MMA. Here are your choices, guys. 2, oh man, I was already buying it. 3, I will now. Sorry, why am I saying these numbers? I'm giving you the percentage. Sorry, the first choice is was already buying it. The second one was I will now. The third one was needs to be lower. And the fourth one was won't buy at any price. Go ahead, Goes. You go first.
I'm going to go with that third option. I wouldn't say I wouldn't buy it at any price, but I think it would still need to be lower for me to want to purchase it.
Yeah, I'm glad you added in that caveat, George, as a fan. As a fan, I would also go with that third price that needs to be lower. I don't want to say that I wouldn't not watch it at all, especially being in the fan mindset, but yeah, it would need to be lower for me to make that happen.
Yep, I'm right there with you guys. The third one needs to be lower. If what I'm hearing is right, and for Black Friday they're going to get it down to $19.99, I'm in. I think it's fair. I think a lot of people will jump on that. But we don't know what Golden Boy has as an offering. I mean, look, it's a main event that has two guys that despise each other. I get that. That's one of the components I like in a main event. But this thing was settled. Or Liddell's won twice, finished them. You know, he's been gone longer than Ortiz. Ortiz has that advantage, and he's 5 years younger. And there's a good chance Ortiz might win. But still, I don't know that we needed to see it. I don't mind their ages or nothing like that. I just don't know. And the fact that we have to pay, yeah, I think I need it lower than $39.99. So there you go. Now, obviously, when I was talking earlier, I kind of led you to, you know, kind of give away what some of the answers were. But yeah, 2% was already buying it. 3% was I will now, meaning now that it's dropped from $49.99 to $39.99. 20% still wanted to be lower, and 75% guys said I won't buy it at any price. You think they're lying or telling the truth?
I think they're lying. I think $10 maybe.
I think so too. Maybe 50% feel that way, but yeah, I don't know about 75. 2,561 votes came in altogether, so that was a very popular daily debate, and we appreciate Junkie Nation, our readers of the site, our listeners of the show for participating. All right, guys.
Can I say something else on that? Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Even more on the price point for me is I might even pull the trigger at $20. But you know what holds me back? I just don't want to pull out my credit card and enter it into something new. If Dan said $20, I'll sign us up and you just give me 10, I would probably do it that way. I just don't want to have to go through finding the website, going on directtv.com, going through all that shit. I don't know. That's a big part of it for me.
Is that a whole other subject, though? Are you saying that you're willing to do that for the UFC, but not these guys? Like, are you wanting someone to come up with something simple?
Already saved in there and all that. I already know how to find it. It's just like some of these sites don't make it easy on you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't even know if they're fighting in a ring or a cage. Like, there's a lot of stuff I don't know about this card.
All right. Well, maybe we'll dig into it a little bit tomorrow. We'll find out what we'll read off the rest of the card and see how you guys feel about some of those other matchups. You know, they had to tweak it a couple times because the first one didn't make much of a splash, and then that'll give me a chance to also confirm that Black Friday price of $19.99. I don't want to lead people in the wrong direction, but thought that was pretty clear in the article. So unless somebody was being snarky. Regardless, fun show today, guys. Big thanks to Iaquinta for his time. Great job, guys, with recapping UFC Fight Night 140 and sharing our thoughts on Bellator 209. We'll be back tomorrow and Wednesday. Remember, we're off Thursday and Friday. But tomorrow we will be back. The guys in Vegas, I'll be back here in Costa Mesa. Shout out to KOCI here in Costa Mesa. And, of course, my man Mike Boyle for always facilitating this. So, for Danny and Dan and Goes, I'm George. Have a nice day and go out there and be a champion.